Everyone should watch this video, trust. If you've ever felt stuck in your life, if you ever asked the question of why am I alive? Why am I here? What's my purpose? Should I kill myself? Is life worth living? This is for you and so much more. So stop making being alive the default, right? It's not the default. Being alive is a conscious decision. I know it just sounds really weird to a lot of people, but being alive is a choice. You don't have to be alive. I know it's so against the grain. It sounds so horrible. So let's bring it back and give everybody context, right? So just a little bit about me. I grew up pretty happy. Both my parents, I still have them. I have a younger sibling. I'm the oldest, and I was sexually molested or abused when I was a child for years. And then the first time I started asking myself these existential questions is when I was, I think, 12 or 13. It was middle school. I have no idea where the hell I got the notion to ask that, but I did. And for some reason, asking that question made me more depressed. I think I would have been happier if I didn't ask these questions. Happier in the moment, but not happiness as a whole, if that even makes any sense. So I've always questioned my human existence, right? Like, are we in the Matrix? What is the point? Like, what is real? That sounds a little bit of a loony bin talk. I know. I guarantee you I'm not that crazy. It definitely got worse in high school. This depression, this like dark cloud over me, and definitely worse in college as well. Even though, granted, I'm a freaking happy person, okay? Don't get it twisted. I'm a very freaking jolly, happy person. I'm the late night comedian that no one pays for. I am usually bringing the good energy, the party. I am very rambunctious and very happy, and I also love seeing people happy, and I love seeing people laughing. Like, that's the point, you know, like that's the best part. That's the best part. And even though I lived, I would say, such an incredible, happy life, I wouldn't say there's anything wrong with my life. I had a great partner, which is now my husband. I had an intact family and a wholesome family. I had family that cared about me. I had friends. I would say I have all of everything that, you know, what people would be sad about. I have everything. I traveled a lot. My husband, well, now he was my boyfriend, and he took care of me. He really did. He did a great job. He took care of me. I'm gonna be honest, I didn't struggle all that much. At least what I compare myself to others. I didn't have a good reason to be unhappy, if that makes sense. Even though I had this incredible life, right? Happy life, there was still like this dark, empty cloud that was like following me, if that makes sense. It's not like one of those things where I would say, okay, you lost your job, you're depressed, or I don't know how to say it. It's like a lingering thing where it's not, I'm not mopey. I'm like not at all mopey. There's just this inkling in the back of me that questions my existence, you know, occasionally here and there, basically, but it's always there. It's always there. She never goes away. So all my survival needs are met. My, you know, loved ones are there. Everything kind of, if we're talking about Maslow's hierarchy of needs, everything's there, but these thoughts don't go away. So what I did was, one, talk about it more. So I have, you know, some close friends that I would speak this to. My partner, he knows all too well about it. He got the front seat to all of this. What I did was give myself a death clock. I gave myself a death clock. I told myself if I couldn't decide whether to live or die by the time I'm 30, then I'll just leave. And you know, people think it's like this depressing, I guess even when I describe it, it sounds a little depressing, but I don't know how to say it. But to me, it wasn't that depressing. It was just as if you turned off the lights and you went to bed. It sounds honestly kind of peaceful. I was like, not like I'm talking myself into it, but it just sounded very peaceful. Our current reality of humans, you know, existing and everything, it seems like it was very noisy. And I was like, maybe I don't want to play this game. Maybe this is not for me. You know, obviously with that belief, I either think that one, there's another dimension somewhere, somehow, or two, even if there wasn't, it's just lights out. That's it. Lock the doors and that's it. And it didn't bother me. I didn't think it was this big old grand, you know, like, oh, you died, whatever. It's so sad or anything. I didn't think of it like that. Okay, so let's start with that premise. Most of you are going to ask me, why 30? Right? Why 30? Why that number? But But if you ask most people why they are alive or what their meaning of life is, they're gonna tell you kids. They're kids. Not like it's a bad thing, it's a great thing. It's just that I didn't feel like that was going to be my anchor. I didn't want that to be my anchor in this world, if that makes sense. I think it's a low-key cop-out. I think it's a cop-out. I don't think you answered the question. And I definitely wanted to live for more than just my kids, right? Like, to have meaning of life, you must give life. Wow, that's deep. I just give, wow. I mean, I guess it might work. I guess, but I just think it's this vicious cycle that just, I don't know. I don't think, no, yeah, this math formula is not gonna work for me. I don't see it. For a good chunk of my life, I would say at least 12 years, maybe more, a lot more than that, but we'll just stick to that. At least way over a decade, I've been traveling the world, asking strangers, friends, family, what the meaning of life is. Because I couldn't answer it. I wanted to see their take. I wanted to see everyone's take and see if I can extract something of value that would work for me, right? Something that I could adopt. And crazy enough, no matter how many people I spoke to, there was, everyone's answer was sometimes slightly unique, but they had a general consensus. But I still didn't have anything that I could adopt as my own. But guess what? Pause the video right now and guess what are the most common answers to what the meaning of life is. Yes, for most people, number one on that chart is kids, is their offsprings. I gave it away earlier, but is their kids. Their kids, everyone says their kids save them. I think you should save yourself and then have kids. So you're less likely to fuck up the kids. I know it sounds bad. You're less likely to fuck up the kids because you've done the work. Here's a quote that actually really stuck with me that I actually just found today, this morning. I sent it to one of my really, really good friends. And that quote was, the battles that you don't fight, that you refuse to fight, your kids are gonna have to fucking fight. Your kids are gonna have to answer to. So clean up your shit so that your kids don't have to suffer as much. That makes sense. The number two most common answer was religion. God. God was the number two answer in the meaning of life, which I would say is also a cop-out. I'm not super religious, but I understand it and I get it and I can appreciate it. But damn, I'm such a red pill girl. I understand how it works. You're taking your responsibility or whatever it is, your faith, your whatever it is that you hold, you're taking that and you're giving it to somebody else that is all knowing, all everything, right? They will know what to do with it. They have plans. So you don't have to operate in a way where it's the whole ignorance. It's a little bit ignorance is bliss. I'm okay with not knowing. I'm okay with, seeing where the chips may fall, even though it's already planned ahead because someone planned it for me that is greater, way, way greater than me and bigger than me. I get it. I'm not an idiot. I get it. I just still think that's still, for me, that's still external. It's still external. It's taking away that responsibility and pushing it elsewhere. You're pushing it to kids, you're pushing it to God. And let me tell you very quickly about the story. I was speaking to a pastor on one of my trips, and he seemed like the most incredible family in life. And I asked him these questions. I don't know which he answered first, with the kids or God. Don't quote me, I forgot. But he used both. And I think he used kids first, and I took it away. I said, okay, you can't answer kids. It's external. Okay, and then he said God. And I said, okay, you can't say God. And now what? He had a really hard time answering that. And as soon as I said, you can't say that because of X, Y, and Z, basically you're drawing outside the lines. I mean, as soon as I said that, he goes, damn, Tani, that's dark. Yeah, it is. A lot of people, I guess, we're all built so different in our perspective and our makeup, our experiences, our programming is so different. So we all have just such vast different perspectives, right? But it kind of falls into similar similar boxes, I would say, when it comes to answering this question. My obsession with answering this question, I think the more I researched and the more I dug into it, my obsession with this question was quite unhealthy from other people's perspective. But let's go back. Let's go back to that death clock at 30. Why 30 is because I wanted to make sure that I wanted to be alive as a choice and not as a default. And I also, the main reason was it was before I could procreate, before I'm having kids. I'm not gonna have kids and just leave them. Like, there's no way. If I had kids, I obviously would stay, but then I wouldn't answer the question on my own as to why I chose to stay. Let me share you a little story. So there was one day, I remember that drive. We were driving to my friend Cindy's birthday at the beach. This was years and years ago. And I don't know how we got on this topic, but we were just casually throwing around, like I was casually throwing around about suicide and not living, choosing not to live. And my husband, he always tries his best to talk me off the ledge, but he's not the best with words. And he also doesn't obviously understand my perspective about it. He has his points. His points are very valid. He thinks it's very selfish. You know, he's like, what about me? Am I not enough for you to live? And I kind of said, I love you, but I don't think that if kids are not a reason for me to live, I don't think another human should be the reason I choose to live. It doesn't make any sense for me. But anyways, having that conversation, it went from lighthearted to a little bit more deep. And he said, if you decide to leave before you go, can you give me a kid? And that kind of really always stuck with me, you know? I was like, I understand that kids of those parents still can grow up, still can have fruitful lives. I understand that. But that's not something that I would want for my kids, if that makes sense. Okay, so if my death clock was at 30 and I'm 33, you guessed it, ding, 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 I'm still alive, so that means I chose to live. And if everyone wants to know what the reason was, or how I answered, or how I try to figure out that Sudoku puzzle, let me tell you. If I were to tell you there's a perfect answer in this world, there's not. And it sounds silly. And it wasn't answered, it wasn't like I'm 100%, I choose to live. It was not that. I would say it was like 60%. Okay, it was majority rules in that, in my brain at least. So I'm like, you know what, let's do it. And a few things. I've never been more poorer than today. Yep, I've never been more poorer than I am today, but I've also never been more happier. So let me share what I have come up with so far, right? It's not perfect, but this is what I've come up with so far. So this is my research so far, and this is what's in my brain, right? I'm going to show you a chart somewhere here. So if you look at this chart, happiness is, I would say, for the most part, a combination of all these parts, moving parts. And the biggest piece of the pie by far is self. You have self, you have mate, you have family and community, and you have your ikigai. Okay, your family and community is like family, friends, work buddies, whatever it is, people in your life, the relationships in your life. Your mate is your spouse or your loved one, your person, right? Your person. Yeah, your person. And ikigai, if you guys don't know what ikigai is, we're taking that from the Japanese. It's basically your career, your personal success. But there's a caveat. Ikigai is like a mix of different circles. Bottom line, what ikigai is you're doing what you actually want to do in life. You love it, and people are willing to pay. The world is willing to pay you for it. So you're making a living off of something you love, generally. That's the most general and most precise, I guess, I would say, clean definition of ikigai. So for everyone, the sizes of these, the sizes of ikigai, the sizes of your community, the sizes of When I say sizes, I mean like the importance to your happiness. The importance of having a mate is gonna vary from person to person, right? Some people, their ikigai pie might be like slice might be smaller, and then their community might need to be bigger for them to feel more fulfilled and more flourished as a human. And so at 30, I chose to play the game. If there is a meaning to life, and if the meaning is playing the game and doing the journey and doing the work, then let's play. I think that was the most simple. It's so counterintuitive, right? Because here I am asking what reality is and what it means to be here. And if this is all a game of life, let's play. That was what kind of shoved me over to keep me here. So if life is a game, then your biggest obstacle, your biggest boss, right, at the end of the game or every level of the game, each boss gets bigger and bigger at each level. The biggest boss is yourself. The biggest obstacle is yourself. And that's what you need to master. So let me answer my own question, right? What is the meaning of life? Let me give it to you plain and flat. It's the human experience. So what if this is a simulation? What if this is just a game? You don't have to play it, but aren't games kind of fun? If it's the human experience, if you think of it as a game of life, then it really is a game. And you're gonna have levels. You know, the roller coaster feeling? We don't talk about that too much, right? We talk about like, blah, 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 blah. Okay, tangent really quick, promise. Antidepressant medicines, I'm not a big fan of them. Unless you have some kind of like, I would say like the rarity, like the clinical, like really crazy stuff where, you know, you are a harm to your, unless you're like the rarity ones that it's like really, really crazy. I'm not a big fan of them because this Western thing about popping the pill because we have problems that we need to deal with mentally, emotionally, whatever it is, we need to do some work and we cop out by taking a pill. And you know the roller coaster feeling of being high, like obviously not being, I'm not talking about extremities here. I'm not talking about extreme, but the highs only feel good because you know how the lows feel like. And that is not what's talked about enough. The only reason making $100 feels good because you know how it feels to not make anything, right? Whatever your baseline is, if it's something better, then it's gonna feel good. That's it. So you need the lows, is what I'm saying. You need the lows. You can't have highs without lows. I'm going to make a drug reference here. That's the same exact way that drugs work. People that take ecstasy, coke, I don't know, crack, I don't know, any kind of drugs that use up your dopamine, use up your serotonin. I learned that from another friend that if you've never heard of, you know, when you take ecstasy, you feel really, really good and you feel really high, right? But then no one talks about the crash, right? Where you're just feeling really down. Well, no shit, Sherlock, because you used all your fucking dopamine, your serotonin, and all that good stuff. You used all the good stuff. So if you used up all the good shit, you're not going to be left with much the next day. You're not going to be left with much to work with. So if that's how your body works and that's how your brain works, then that's also how life works, right? Or how you perceive life. It's the same thing. Everyone's heard of Maslow's hierarchy of needs. If you haven't, looks like this, okay? So once you have everything else fulfilled, then now what you're looking at is self-actualization, which is, I would say, human flourishing, fulfillment. It's purpose. And for the longest time, what I was missing in my life was purpose. And I kind of knew that. And most of the time, most of everyone's purpose, kind of crazy because it's still technically a little external, but most people that truly had a purpose in this world, they use their gifts, whatever it may be, to help or inspire people. That's it. They use their gifts and abilities that were given to them and that they trained and worked hard at, right? And they provided some kind of value to somebody else, to some people, some other people, to other humans. And that gave them purpose, which is ikigai. And I was missing that ikigai. I was missing that little piece of the pie. But I guess for me, it was such a big piece of the pie in relation to mating or community. Isn't that crazy? To those that are asking why the self part of the pie is humongous, why is it more important than finding a partner, why is it more important than community, which is crazy, right? Because we're social creatures. Why is it more important than ikigai? Because everything of those three components are all linked to self. You are your biggest obstacle. So once you figure out who you are, what you have, the gifts you are given, and the reason you are here, a lot of these things, being meta, being self-aware, all of that plays such a huge role in the foundation of healthy relationships, healthy marriages, great careers, whatever it may be. It's the basis. Is it possible to have an amazing career and have, everything else? Probably not if you didn't take the battle of self. You need that awareness, you need that strength, that growth, that clarity, that transparency. You need that from self. And that's going to affect the rest of your life. For example, being self-aware is going to help your partner. It's probably going to help your relationships with people. What do you want out of that relationship? Because I think one of the biggest problems with people that are unhappy is because they don't even know what the problem is. Like, they have no fucking clue. No clue. They don't know what they want. That is the number one biggest problem. And they don't think it's a problem. And they have no clue it's a problem. They don't know what they want. So what do you want? Trying to answer that question, you're going to be forced to answer the question of who the fuck am I? And who do I want to be? And most people don't sit down and take the time to ask that question. In order to answer these questions, you have to be aware that the questions exist. You can't solve a problem thinking there's no problems. That's the doorway to everything. Cheers to asking more questions to get better answers out of life and living your best life, really. Living your best fucking life, being happy, being stupid happy. Being stupid happy. That's what we're here for. Being stupid happy. Feeling wholesome. Being fucking happy. Cheers.